Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Way of the Brush with me, your host, Kris, aka the Name Butcher, aka Hey You, Get Off My Lawn, aka Kris, you are being creepy again. Way of the Brush, the most informative 120 minutes on the internet on the wargaming lifestyle. We'll talk about painting, terrain, conversions, and everything under the sun. We usually delve into a lot of painting talk, as well as a lot of what's under the sun, meaning no topics are barred, anything and everything will be discussed. So, first-time viewers, be warned. And of course, it does get a little bit colorful, so, again, I should have the viewer discretion logo up. So, of course, if you are attending live, you can ask your questions or comments or what have you in the chat, wherever it might be for you. And, of course, if you're not watching this live and you're watching this after the fact, you can submit your questions to Kris at Way of the Brush. It is in the description below, as well as a link to wayofthebrush.com. Wayofthebrush.com has links for all the social medias as well as Discord. Join us on Discord. It's a lot of fun. We keep the conversation rolling there 24/7. And as well as other voice chats and, just connecting with everybody. And it's a nice little community we've built. And so feel free to jump in and say hi and, share whatever you're working on. That's really what it's all about. It's all about sharing and having laughs and, connecting with people. And, especially in these funny times we live in. It is important to feel connected, and I think that's why, so many of us right now are sharing what we're working on, no matter, what we're doing, and, don't feel that you have to be an expert or anything like that, because, everybody is at different levels in this hobby, and, I welcome any and all, and so, again, yeah. Wayofthebrush.com also has links for t-shirts. Want to get you, or I can move the camera, I suppose. But anyway, Way of the Brush t-shirts. You want to look like a connoisseur of all that is good and holy in this world, they're wearing a Way of the Brush t-shirt. And of course, if you've purchased yourself a shirt, send a picture of yourself in your shirt, and I will add it to the Monkey Shrine, which is also at wayofthebrush.com, as well as links for Patreon support. Want to help support the channel? I'm independent these days, and so this is pretty much how I keep this thing rolling. And there are, when you are doing this kind of thing on your own, websites and servers and all this other BS, it does add up. And so, with your support, I can continue to keep this going, especially if you've enjoyed the videos like the fresh tips and just the tip and, getting projects done and all the other kind of crazy odds and ends that I've been doing, as well as this show. Maybe consider Patreon support. It's in the description below or in the website, wayofthebrush.com. Either one. There are Patreon links all over the place. In fact, I might even slap a link right up in there after the fact as well. Just so that I get the point across. And of course, if you're not able to support monetarily, i.e. money, liking, commenting, thumbing up the video, sharing, and all that other social stuff helps the video as well. Helps it tremendously, actually, by liking and sharing and commenting and all that. Engaging with the video, that all helps, move it along and, help maybe somebody else who's, wanting help or looking for something fresh or what have you. It helps them as well. So, and you're helping me out tremendously as well because, more eyeballs. Another big thank you to Carl, a.k.a. Guymere Alfer, a.k.a. Beer and Blood Bowl. That's his YouTube channel. Check him out if you love yourself some beer and you love yourself some Blood Bowl. Beer and Blood Bowl is where it's at. We always take time to thank Carl for taking the time out of his busy day to create the email jingles that play before the email segments of the show. And so always much love for Carl. And of course, much love for my baby brother, Evan, for creating the intro and outro music that plays before this show. And so always much love for him. I've only recently started including him. I don't know why, because I'm an idiot, I suppose. But yeah. So always much love to my baby brother, Evan. Because he's a baby. And he's my brother. And he's really talented. That's it. That's all I got. Oh, crap. The chat's not on. Oops. I got to turn my chat on. There we go. Holy crap. I'm dropping the ball here. I'm dropping the ball. Who's joining us? I can see Ghost of Starman Deluxe. Hello, Kris and Monkeys. Missed yesterday's show, but I'm glad to be back. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because for everybody who, doesn't do the Twitch thing, everybody kind of does Twitch these days. But anyway, yeah, the video I post on Wednesdays here on YouTube, on Twitch, I do on Fridays. So, if you follow me on Twitch, then you can catch it live and, whatever's, right? And, yeah, so we've been working on Funko. You know what? I'll just switch cameras because, you know, it's more fun that way, right? So, yeah, I've been working on a Funko. That's what I'm working on, getting projects done. It's a Funko. Now, I started this guy a while ago, and I'm only now getting back to, you know, actually getting them done. Again, hence the show is called Getting Projects Done, right? So that's been something sitting on my desk for a while. I'm finally getting around to getting him painted because I have the other one. Where is he? He's right around there, right there. And, you know, he's default. I left him as is. He's untouched. And so, yeah. But that one, yeah. And, of course, everybody, hats off to whoever, you know, guesses the chapter correctly. Because apparently it's kind of a mystery, I suppose. But, yeah. That's what we're working on. Go start my Lex. Ooh, Howling Griffin. He is Howling Griffin. Reziel, yo. Robert Marshall, good afternoon, Kris and all. Good afternoon. Sir Peanut Butter, morning, Kris and peeps, morning. Drew Kari for our holy kermolies, there he is. Good afternoon, Kris and monkeys. Good afternoon. Johnny's Chap Shop, good afternoon, Kris. Let the paint fly. Let it fly. Just let it, you know, slap it and chuck it and let it fly. Just start chucking stuff around. See what sticks. You know, and you know what? That's really, like, it sounds like I'm kind of making a joke, but when we're painting, that is kind of the attitude you should kind of take towards, you know, when you're approaching something, especially when you are, you know, have the goal of trying out new colors, new color combinations, or new techniques, or even new paints for that matter. And, you know, you just want to play. And, you know, I've recommended that many times. You know, just play with the colors and see what happens. If you don't like it, you can always paint over it. You can strip it, whatever, you know, you want. But, you know, just play. And, you know, I think that's very, very important, especially for a lot of you that, oh, camera shaking. A lot of you that are not, you know, that serious about your painting, but you do have the aspiration for improving. Right? You always have the aspiration. If you don't have the aspiration to improve, then carry on doing what you're doing, right? Absolutely nothing wrong with not progressing, right? If you hit upon a technique, color combination that works for your army, and your goal is really only is to get your army painted, then carry on. And, you know, when people say, oh, well, you should be, you know, doing this, and you should learn wet blending and glazing, and, you know what I mean, and learn your colors, and, you know what I mean, like, you don't have to. You don't have to. Throw that idea out the window. You don't have to. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can paint however you want. But it kind of requires you to know what your end goal is. And your goals can change, but at the moment you say, okay, well, what do I really want to accomplish when I sit down at my hobby area and I'm assembling models? Do I really want to get them painted? Do you even feel like painting them? Because if that's the case and you find painting is a complete chore, then maybe consider commission painting. You know, because then you got to kind of factor in, well, what is my time worth? Well, I don't really get a lot of time to sit down. I want to have my army because I do play a lot and I really look forward to playing. It's, you know, for some people, it's a lot easier to just kind of pack up your army, go somewhere, play a game. Not these days, but, you know, and have your army, right? Whereas, you know, the whole aspect of, you know, of getting your army painted and you painting it, you know, there seems to be this real, like, it's a fairly common thing that you should be painting your army. And that's not really the case. You don't have to paint your army, especially if you don't have the capacity to do it. Some people have a hard time manipulating, you know, like their hands shake. They might have, you know, a condition of some sort where, you know, they're unable to have that fine motor skill. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, because then, okay, well, ask yourself, well, is it really important for me to have an army painted? Well, it looks really great on the tabletop. I really enjoy the community aspect of things. And so when I go and play with my friends, you know, I want to, you know, have something that looks good, because it, you know, you might have a painter in your group who might be, you know, the group artist. And, you know, sometimes you want to, well, you know, either you commission them or, you know, you want to play against them and have a good painted army, and it looks great on the table. You got your terrain all painted up. their army's painted, your army's painted, and it all looks really great. And then when new people see it, they go, "Oh wow, that looks really fantastic. What are you playing?" And you say, "Well, geez, and then it invites people in when this hobby looks really enticing." And again, more people is better. More people is better, because the game becomes dry. Especially if you are a Space Marine player and your buddy is a Tyranid player, and you're playing Tyranids and Space Marines all the damn time. It gets kind of dry, right? That's why a lot of people end up, going into different armies, because, you want to mix it up, because especially if you only have one or two gaming friends, you want to mix it up, and, they're mixing it up, and because, otherwise, the game becomes dry and stale, and it's not challenging, right? And of course, as from the painter side, I mean, it is kind of fun to diverge into other armies as well, Personally, I mean, years ago, I used to have many armies on the go, but now I've just focused on one because, I even have a hard time focusing on that one too. But anyway, what was I talking about? I don't remember. Kevin Cabell, hello, happening hobbyist. Hello. Johnny Chop Shop. Kris, a.k.a. the ball dropper. The ball dropper. Dropping them balls. Raziel, Ghost of Starman Deluxe wins. He does win. Ghost of Starman Deluxe. Yeah. Howling Griffin. Very good. Very good. Yeah, that's what he is. Howling Griffin. That's Howling Griffins. I was talking a bit about this on getting projects done. Howling Griffins are probably my second favorite Space Marine chapter. Now, the idea of painting a whole army of them, back in 2nd edition, not such a horrible idea. Even in Rogue Trader days, painting a whole battle group of them wasn't that, big a concern, because, the armies just weren't as big. You had maybe 2 tactical squads a character, maybe a rhino, and, other odds and ends. And, that was the size of your army. Now, the size of armies that we often play with, especially with 8th edition and everybody kind of playing anywhere from 15 to 2,000 points, the armies can get pretty darn big, depending on what you take, of course, but, just the idea. Painting a whole Howling Griffin's army fills me with dread. Ishyab. Good day, Kris and all. Looking forward to a fun session of chat and art. Cool. George Hintz over on Twitch. Hello. Hello, George. George. That's my brother, George. Reziel, I am indeed letting it fly. Finally back to the Blood Angels today. Cool. Ariel Sasinski. Hi, Kris. Sazinski. Anyway, hi, Kris, and hi, everyone. Hi. Johnny Chop Shop, Way of the Brush, 294. Strip it down. Strip it down. Strip it up and strip it down. Robert Marshall, getting 10 Arid Guardsmen done soon. I have 40 of the little buggers primed and ready to go. 10 at a time works for me. Yeah, 10? Even Imperial Guard doing 10? Oof. No, that sounds like a lot, even for me. My max is around that 5. Even getting down to about 3, I'm a little bit more comfortable with. Space Marines and even Imperial Guard, stuff like that. Yeah, I honestly, I don't know what it... Maybe I have the opposite, or maybe it's attention deficit disorder. Maybe I've got that. And, because the prospect of doing 10 models at once, maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know. But yeah, I get really bored with it, I get really bored with a monotonous processes. I just no. Again, to be a commissioned painter, you have to be able to muscle through and move forward with your projects like that, and just get the work done. I don't have that aspect. I think because for myself personally, I treat painting as an art form, and when I am sitting down to my miniatures and stuff like that, for the most part, I am relaxing and just, letting the paint kind of fly. And I'm playing. And I'm trying different things out here or there. And you know what I mean? And so when you are locked into a process, there is no room for overthinking, for experimentation, for, whatever, right? It's just get that done. We're on blue. Bang, bang, bang. We're banging blue across the thing. Then we're going to hit these areas in yellow. Bang, 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 bang. You know what I mean? And, yeah, that kind of stuff does not appeal to me, and that's why I'm not a good commission painter. And people ask me about doing commissions, stuff like that. It just fills me with dread. I have no interest in doing commission work. I have zero. Well, it's more like probably 0.0000000000000 infinity 1 kind of thing. But yeah. Johnny Chop Shop. Don't let it get dry. Let it fly and don't let it get dry. I'm not even sure where we're going with that. Grim. I know of the Howling Griffins due to an old Rogue Trader game I was in. You were in an old Rogue Trader game? Were you time traveling? The chapter became our protector, and we tried to help them in return. It was a blast. Yeah. Howling Griffins is just one of those fun color schemes, and it's really bright. It's, they have that old chivalric type of heraldry. It's a griffin in the Old English style kind of thing. It's the bifurcated color scheme. And you know what? It's like a Bretonnian heraldry, but on a Space Marine chapter, even before there was Bretonians. And yeah, it's just one of those old color schemes from way back in the day that just, it was a play on, because even in Rogue Trader, there were Space Marines that were, colored in camouflage. Like the armor is camouflage, which makes sense that Space Marines would have very low-key or camouflaged armor. It doesn't really make sense that their armor be bright, other than the fact that, in the other aspect of it, is that they're heroic. And so it's their heraldry. They're like knights, and, they're letting their colors fly, right? And, Howling Griffins are no exception. In fact, they're probably when somebody, I don't know who created the color scheme, but whenever they did it, it was probably along that vein of, this is what a Space Marine is. These are space knights, right? And they're heroically fighting on the battlefield, and, they're performing all sorts of feats of heroism. Anyway. But yeah, and so, Howling Griffins, yeah. And so, and again, I mean, that kind of falls because, I mean, like, in Warhammer Fantasy, Bretonnians were my faction. And, it makes sense that Howling Griffins, and I mean, like, I like Crimson Fists are the Space Marine chapter that I like. It's the color scheme I like. But Howling Griffins is a close second. I think that was my initial point, wasn't it? Rezia, okay, Kris, you got to tell the story of why you like the Howling Griffins now. I just did. Old Man Logan. Hello, Kris and monkeys. Hello, Grim. Also, hello, y'all. Y'all. Mark Hill. Hey, Kris, hope you're keeping safe and well. Safe? Yes. Well? Sure. I was talking last week about how, going to start quitting this week. Quitting or not smoking. Stop smoking. So, I can report that I'm not done smoking. I haven't stopped quite yet, but we're on a very slow trickle. I'm only having maybe about 2 or 3 a day, which is not terrible. So, yeah, 2 or 3. But yeah, the goal. It's like Fifth Element, the little machine. To quit is my goal. I'll have like cigarette that's mostly this much butt and that much cigarette. Anyway. Harry. Hey, Kris. Or hey, monkeys. Oh, I didn't even say hey, Kris. Nice. Rude. Hey, monkeys. Hope all are well and being healthy and doing well. Well, I hope so as well. And I think everybody's okay. We're okay. Johnny Chop Shop. Trying to think of a good joke for a threesome. Whoa. What? I don't get it. Aaron Seach, there is. Tried doing commission once and making my hobby a job. Killed my desire to paint. Hard time getting all my shit done. Let alone someone else's. Yeah, exactly. And that's it too, right? I mean, like I said, like I have a hard time with the knuckling down and, just getting it done. Because again, I mean, I still equate painting with, a hobby, even though I shouldn't, because, I've been doing it for a living for the last, 8-9 years, right? So, You'd think I'd have this down pat, but I don't know. I don't listen to my own advice. I'll pretty much say that. I don't listen to my own advice. Johnny's Chop Shop. Maybe. Ban me now and get over with. Johnny's Chop Shop. Episode 294. Why Johnny got banned. Why did Johnny get banned? Thinking of a good threesome joke? Yeah, I don't know where you're going with that. I don't get it. Sir Peanut Butter. Oh, speaking of fantasy, a buddy is convincing me to take the plunge. For fantasy or Age of Sigmar? Well, for fantasy's, kind of gone. Although, I mean, Games Workshop did put out that teaser a while back about, something to do with the old world. I don't know what it is. I have no idea. But, sure. I mean, go ahead. Jump in. There's plenty of companies out there who are still in that era of fantasy gaming and, boxes of units and stuff like that. That was one of the hard sells on fantasy for me initially, was I didn't like the idea of just these all rank and file big blocks of things. You know what I mean? Because it might as well just be one model with a wound counter beside it, right? Because it's essentially, that's all it is. It's just one thing moving around. But you have to buy boxes and boxes of miniatures to build out that big block, which is essentially one thing, right? You might as well just play with, a big model that moves around and has a bunch of wounds on it. I mean, what's the difference, right? Versus, which is why I like Rogue Trader, was because, guys were moving around, and I liked the idea that, one Marine's over here, he's hiding behind some barrels, the other one's, making a run this way, and, you know what I mean? And there was a unit over here, and he's trying to provide cover, and, it had a very tactical kind of feel. It had a very, kind of modern warfare type of idea, whereas, the idea of these regiments and stuff moving forward together in big blocks. I mean, it only makes sense in regards to shield formations like Roman legionnaires, and you know what I mean, like where they're all protecting themselves by shield, and that kind of idea is, I assume why armies fought in that regards. Like North American side of things, I mean, battles were, warriors were all over the place in different positions, and it was not a free for all, but there were boundaries and repelling your opponent, and of course taking high ground, because there was many natural points, especially in the region in which I live. There's a lot of cliff faces and stuff like that, and there's natural points where you can funnel people in, and you know what I mean, and but we didn't. North American people didn't. Well, at least for as far as Ojibwe's are concerned, we didn't fight in fixed formations or anything like that, because and also too, like the idea, like when you get into obviously when the English and French were fighting on this continent, the idea of not going after an officer or anything like that didn't make sense either, because you know what I mean, like obviously that's a weak point. That's a bottleneck, and in combat, you always want to bring your opponent and bring them to a bottleneck and make your attack, right? Cut the head of a serpent kind of thing. And so not going after an officer, it made no sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, oftentimes these rules of war, it's coming from the idea that war is heroic. And I think that's a concept that probably needs to die as well. I'm not saying we can't do it for our little toy soldiers, but the idea in the real world, that a man's a man when he's holding his gun. Like, come on. Not really. The gun's just a tool. Anyway. Where the hell am I? Where am I? Rezia Corbin Muffuggin Dallas. Cock King 5555. Why do I bleed for new models? Blood for the blood god. Harry, sorry for the flake. Hey, Kris, the head monkey leader. For the flake. Sorry for the flake. What? You guys are spitting words at me. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Rezia, oh man, Kris, it's true. I can fix other people's problems, just not my own. Yeah. Again, I mean, I have a hard time, taking my own advice. And, I have no problem spitting advice out, When really, yeah, I mean, should be listening to my own advice and, being smart. But, such is life, right? Johnny's Chop Shop. Any advice on how to paint old rusted plate armor on a large scale model, 1/6 scale? Thanks. For painting old rusted plate armor. Now, are we talking about are we talking for example, the entire plate is rusty, or just the edges are rusty, or it's got rust, in corners? Like, what level of rust are we talking about? I guess really do a search on rusted plate armor, or even just rusted metals armor, what have you. A real world search. Look at photographs, stuff like that. Get an idea of what kind of level you want. Now, because on a large scale model, like a 1/6 scale, that's that size. I'm pretty sure Bob Ross, right there where I'm pointing, he's a 1/6 scale. That's about 6 inches, I believe. Yeah, I guess so, right? Because if average thing is 1. Anyway, for that size of scale, doing large plate armor, depending on what it is, plate armor, are we talking fantasy? Are we talking sci-fi, real world? What are we talking about? I need specifics, man. Just chucking old rusted plate armor. It takes on various looks, and on a 1/6 scale model, there really is not a lot of difference on how you would create it as a 28 millimeter or 1/6 scale, or even a 1-to-1. Okay, well, it would change up a bit if you're doing 1-to-1, because you don't have to be so precise in where you're deliberately applying it. But yeah, rusted plate armor equals level jack up. What? Level jack up? Is everybody's autocorrect on? Is that why everybody's... Or am I dealing with bots? Is everybody bots? I'm confused, Johnny. So anyway, on a 1/6 scale model, if I was going to create rusted armor, I would either employ the sponge technique or salt technique. One of those two. And that's pretty much what I would do on the 28 mil, or possibly larger surface 28 mil, like a tank or something like that. I would do a salt technique. On a 1/6 scale, salt technique sounds about right. But I guess it all depends on, does the plate armor have color, or is it to look like it's a suit of armor? What is the plate armor? What is the context of this effect that you are trying to create? Is it a knight? Is it a sci-fi? Is it modern armor? Is it a tank? Is it on a person? Specifics, man. I need specifics. Because, I want to help you and guide you in the right direction, but, what are we working on here, And also, too, is the level of rust, right? Because are we looking at something that's completely corroded over? Or is it just in the corners and the recesses? Or is it chipped armor and it's corroding underneath that paint job, right? So, what is the desired goal? Where are you looking to take this effect? And what is the surface? Because that will also affect it. Because on a 1/6 scale, you're starting to get larger, and so you want to employ a bit more realism. Because obviously, the bigger you get, obviously the more detailed you can get. But doing it on a small model, it forces you to be very detailed, and so bringing that going from very, very small and employing it to a larger model or a larger surface, you already have a leg up in that regard. Sending email and pics. Okay, there we go. See, send pics. All the time, people just send pics, Thank you. Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, just send pics, dude, because, picture's worth 1,000 words, as I often say. Excuse me. Sir Peanut Butter. For full Warhammer Fantasy battles, I like Age of Sigmar too, but he's not really a fan. I've always liked the lore style of fantasy anyway. Sure. Yeah, the fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy, it's had the benefit of being around for, 30 years, or less than 30 years, because they killed it off, 3-4 years ago? And, it had a lot of history and, a lot of iterations. It was, 8th edition when it ended? Yeah, right? It was 8th edition when Warhammer Fantasy ended. And so, there's a lot of history there. And, but, again, for me personally, the only reason I really like Bretonnians, especially, I got into Warhammer Fantasy. I was late to Warhammer Fantasy because, again, like I said, it was a hard sell for me because I just didn't really like the idea of these block regiments moving around. Which is why probably historical games, like Napoleonic, whatevers, they don't appeal to me either because the idea of just these big formations of people moving around, it's kind of ridiculous. So anyway, the only one that I liked, and when I got into Warhammer Fantasy was 5th edition, I think, when it was the Bretonnians and Lizardman box. It was a box bundle, right? You would buy the box army. Do I still have the box? No, I got the magic still. But anyway, yeah, and that's when I got into Bretonnians because I saw that the Bretonnians were in that lance formation, the big triangle. I thought that was really, really cool. And it looked really heroic in the pictures and stuff like that because all these knights are in this big lance formation. And that's what got me into Warhammer Fantasy because at least to my line of thinking, that made sense. And that gave you a sense of movement for the Bretonnians because it was this big charge of knights. And I like that. And I like the idea of chivalric knights and chivalry and, the Lady of the Lake and all the, all these King Arthur type of mythos. That, it appealed to me. And so, the idea of these heroes and such, and, and of course they were fighting in a formation that was different from everybody else. And, Kris, he liked going for for something different and outside the norm. And so that's why. So that's why I really like Bretonnians. I like the look. I liked how they fought when they were brought out in the 5th edition. 5th edition? I think that's the 5th edition box. And the background of them, I like the background, and the models look cool, and they're so colorful, and I like that. That's my jam. That's my jam. Banshun. Hey, Kris and crew. Good God. KK, is that you standing next to a Bob Ross? That is me standing next to a Bob Ross. Where is it? Which hand here? That's me. That's my bobblehead. And that's Boob. That's Boob Ross. That's Boob Rose. That's a Space Marine. That's a Funko Boob. And there's another Funko behind him. There's a couple more Funkos back there. This is the Shelf of Happiness right in here. Oh, wait, hold on. No, let's go. Okay. Oh, Fritz. There we go. So, yeah, it's a bunch of completed models and actually some to-do stuff. Like there's my Deepkin sitting there. I got to finish that unit. Maybe I'll do that as getting projects done. Maybe after we do the Funko. I'm hoping that we don't have to spend too much time on the Funko. I don't really want to spend too much time on the Funko, but we might. I don't know. It all depends. I mean, once I start getting into the painting of it, I might just kind of end up heading off into all sorts of crazy directions. Who knows? Roman Matinoff, there he is. Quick! He's on to us. Derail the conversation. And hello, everyone. Johnny Shop. Plate armor on a goblin, very rusted. Oh, okay. So, yeah, doing a 1/6 scale that. Yeah, you'll send pictures. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll talk about it when I get the email. You're sending pictures right now, because I don't see them. Hold on, let me refresh. No, I don't see it. Did you send it the right email? Kris at Way of the Brush? You better have. By God, man, you better have. I gotta switch things here. There we go. I confuddled all up my layout here. Raziel base coated in something like Vallejo Panzer series hull red and then apply chipping medium. Spray your color on top and then activate the medium where you want, adding streaks and dirt. Right. That sounds really great if he was doing it like a battle tank, right? But he's doing a goblin, and and if it's a 1/6 scale, I'm gonna assume it's a bust. And I think he wants to go for like kind of that really highly textured rust. I'm suspecting. I'm already going to... As soon as he's just said a goblin, very rusted plate armor, immediately I had an idea of what he's talking about. See, that's why you got to be specific with Kris, because, I mean, just giving me, how do you paint flesh? Well, there's a bazillion different directions we can go, It's such a big subject that beginning point branches off into 1,000 different directions, and you have to be specific. If you're looking for something specific, you got to be specific. Aaron Seach, if you want good large-scale fantasy game, I would say right now Kings of War is the way to go. Sure. I'm not looking for it, but I assume he's talking about, who was it? Sir Peanut Butter? Sir Peanut Butter. Sure. Go for it. Good advice, Aaron. Kings of War, from what I understand, it's very popular. That's Mantic, right? I understand it's quite popular, and it's still healthy and going, and yeah, as far as I know, I don't know. I could be completely wrong. It's gone already. The company's gone under, and whatever. I don't know. Again, like the fantasy stuff, I mean, I've said it many times, but Kris is more sci-fi than he is. I'm more Star Wars than I am Lord of the Rings. Okay, there we go. We'll leave it at that. I mean, I loves me some Lord of the Rings, but, like, do I see myself more as a character in Lord of the Rings or in Star Wars? Do I see myself more as a, Captain of the Enterprise or Beastmaster? You know what I mean? Like, I think you guys could kind of guess. Giant Shop sent. Oh, the email sent. Right. Oh, yeah, I see it now. No subject, and no pictures, and no text. Johnny, what are you doing to me, buddy? There's nothing in the email, bud. There's no subject heading. There's no text in the body. How did this even send? How did this even send? There's no pictures as well. Johnny, there's no pictures. Johnny, there's no pictures. Anyway. Eldari Lamborghini, there he is. What's going on, everybody? A little late to the party. Need to try and take some good pictures of my recent Elven Nights. Yes, please do. Yeah, I seen you posted those on Discord. Like I said at the beginning of the show, Discord is a fantastic way. We stay connected and we talk all the time in the Discord. And so, yeah, Eldari, I'd seen he had posted a bunch of Lord of the Rings duders, and yeah. That's one of the things too. I think, like Lord of the Rings, the tabletop game, I'm kind of a hard sell on that one. From what I understand, the rules for it are really good. I understand it's a really good game. Don't get me wrong. I understand it's a really good game. There are tons of people who enjoy it. Like I said though, I'm more Warhammer 40,000 than I am Lord of the Rings. And but the thing is though, is the models don't really appeal to me. Not that the sculpts are bad. The sculpts are really impressive because, especially the early sculpts of a lot of the characters who were based off of the movies, they just look really great, and they look like the essence of those actors was captured, right? So really fantastic looking sculpts. But the colors of Lord of the Rings is realistic. And It doesn't appeal to me. Again, Warhammer 40,000, Space Marines, bright colors, love it. Eldar, bright colors, love it. Fantasy, Bretonnians, bright colors, love it. I think you're seeing a pattern here. I don't really go in for muted, realistic tones. Not that, it'll sway me too heavily. I mean, but I don't know. It's just like when I'm looking at like the Rise of Rohan, that brown of a horse and the green cloak. And the green is, pretty subdued. It's not, because because everybody wants to paint it like it was from the movie, right? All right. The orcs. The orcs aren't bright colors. Got dark skin, dark armor. You know what I mean? So, for me, it's the color. I mean, as far as being something to see on the tabletop, it's more impressive if you have the table looks fairly realistic, because then it looks, like something impressive. It's this beautiful scenery, because in the Lord of the Rings movies, so much of the movie is so visual, and the scenery and the composition of the shots. Like Lord of the Rings were great movies just from a visual standpoint. Almost every frame in that movie you could make a poster from. You could hang that still on your wall. Almost every scene in that movie is compositionally really spectacular, and they're really great movies. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of the movies. But as far as the tabletop, the tabletop wants to look like the movies, and so everything's in very realistic tones. I don't know. Just my thoughts. Eldari, how many emails does Kris need to get through today? Not many. And Johnny's Chop Shop sent me one that had nothing in it. So, Johnny, you need to send it again. Picking on poor Johnny today. You know what? Maybe we will go back. Why Johnny got banned. Dr. Xantos, hello, monkeys and monkey lord. What's cooking? Nothing. We're just sitting here having a conversation about stuff and, life in general, and just, yeah. Rezio, okay, now I know why you don't like Dark Angels. Yeah, I mean, not that I don't like Dark Angels. I like the Deathwing, because they're bright, and they got that nice solid red symbol on their shoulder. And they're contrasted by the little red elements. At least the old school Deathwing, especially like the Terminators, the Deathwing Terminators, they look cool, and then they have the eagle feathers hanging off them. That has an appeal to me. And so, the Deathwing look cool. Regular Dark Angel Space Marines, not so much. Yeah, the dark green, meh. But I mean, like, I like Crimson Fists. That's a dark blue, but it's this bright red on them. And they have that bright red fist on them, and you know what I mean? Like, it's a nice contrast. Whereas the Dark Angels, I mean, they do have that red element on them where their symbol's red. Well, the symbol's often white. The tactical symbol or the squad marking is often red. But, I don't know. It's not like I don't like Dark Angels. It's just, they're not the chapter that I particularly like. Although, like I said, I like the Deathwing, because they have that bone white armor, and then they have that bright red symbol on them, and and of course the Terminators, and they have the Crux Terminatus, and all these fun elements, and of course they get bedazzled with eagle feathers and stuff like that, right? So 99. Scott Radom, I love muted and realistic painting. I even paint Space Marines and Eldar all earthy tone and muted. It's the bomb. Sure, I'm not saying that they all need to be bright. But, Scott, how much do you play? How often do you play? Do you play more than you paint? Or do you paint as much as you play? Or do you play more than you paint? Right? Because oftentimes on the tabletop, the bright colors look really great. And muted tones get lost on the table, especially if you're playing on a table that has a lot of greenery, and it looks like a forest, and what I mean, got rivers and rocks and stuff like that, and your models get lost all the time. So it all depends. There we go, Johnny. Okay, so we're going to do an email right now because Johnny sent in this email. We're going to jump right to this right away because I want to talk about this while we're on the subject. But we're doing an email, so let's do a jingle. So if you're wearing headphones, turn it up or down. But here it comes. Yeah, let's just start right here. We'll just blow your eardrums right out. Email time. So this is from Johnny. Morning, Kris. Johnny, you spelled my name wrong. How long have we been talking, dude? You spelled my frickin' name wrong? Are you serious? Are you serious? Here are the pictures of my goobelin. I wanted it very rusted with a glimpse of shiny plate showing through. Thanks, Johnny. Why are you thanking Johnny? So let's have a look at his goobelin. This is a 1/6 goobelin. There we go. So it's a 1/6 goobelin. You wanted it plate. Okay, here we go. All right, now we're cooking with gas. So there's a few things you can do. Now I'm gonna assume that's metallic paint that's on there. So quick and easy way to go for a like really rusted, just beating the crap out of that armor plate. And that is, you can take a very, not super dark brown, but a darker brown, and you can thin it down to a wash. I've shown people how to make washes many times, and apply it. You can either apply it by brush, and then you can also use like a paper towel to wipe it away, or you even use a sponge and apply the paint to the surfaces, building it into the recesses where the segments overlap, or where the on the shoulders, like the armor plate curls upwards into that kind of nook and cranny. And you can kind of dab the entirety of the armor. Then you come in with like a light orange, and you can either mix it to that brown to give you an in-between, or you can just do the orange itself, a dark orange, and not so heavily saturated orange, especially if you want to kind of go for a bit more of a realistic type of rust. And then you can again create it into a wash the armor with it, or apply it by sponge, or apply it by like a wash, but take it like a paper towel or something like that and draw the excess off the surface and slowly build up to that. You can weather it, again, building into the recesses. So like wherever the metal is folding, the armor chips. Now, anything that looks like gouge marks or anything like that, I probably would leave at silver, because that's kind of like, the armor has been hit and it's fresh metal underneath, right? The rust is like a layer. So after you've applied those washes and done that, you can also come in with a metal and just very lightly hit some of the edges, the corners, and stuff like that. Because even though the armor plate would be rusty, where it's banging up against surfaces and he's moving, you know what I mean? That would wear the rust off and the bare metal would still show. Now, given this level, I don't know what brightness of metal that is. That looks like kind of like an in-between, like it's more of a steel rather than say like an aluminum where it's kind of bright. I would probably go with a darker metal to start with, then build up a slightly brighter metal. And if I was using washes to create rust on that armor, and then a final dry brush just to catch edges and maybe bring out some of the high points and stuff like that. And then, of course, you can come in and also create some nicks and scratches as well. But because of the texture of the armor, I don't think that's entirely necessary. Now, those are only just two ways of going about doing that. So, I don't know. Again, I mean, like, because you could also come in with pigments if you really want to introduce a texture to the surface, because pigments can create that microscopic texture on that surface and really, give it life. Up to you. I think personally, not talking about the armor at all, but like the flesh, I definitely would work some of those tones a little darker. And if your goal is to go for a bit of realism, I can kind of see some red tones like in the nose, and I definitely would push that a little bit further and go in for like around the eyes a bit more, maybe into the shadows, stuff like that. Holy carmoly! What on earth is this? This is crazy. This is left field. It's a Battlestar Galactica Titan. I like it. It's crazy. You're gonna have to send me a link where this is from, because this is crazy. Or is this a conversion somebody did? Either way, it's very cool. And it looks like the original Galactica too. Yeah, this is the original Galactica. Well, he went for the original helmet too as well, so yeah. That is very cool. Thank you, Johnny's Chop Shop. Send that in. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that gets you kind of, helps you move a little bit forward on the creating the rust. So again, like I said, there's various ways you can create it. You can either create it like a wash. You can sponge it on. Like personally, another way you could also went about it is even before laying down any metallics. I had shown this in other videos before. Basically, take like a color like Rhinox Hide and Troll Slayer Orange, if you're on the Citadel side of things. Or you can look at the approximate variations, because I've seen you had a lot of Vallejo colors there. It's kind of like a reddy brown and a bright orange. Lay those on your palette. Don't mix them, but take a sponge and kind of mix on your palette on the sponge and apply that onto the surface as a base coat. So very quickly, you apply it not too heavily, because then it'll really kind of create a lot of texture. Although if you want to really bring out the texture, you can do that. And then of course you can always push more oranges and browns on that surface as you want. It'll create an overall look to that armor. And then very quickly you can come in with, say, a slightly darker metal, dry brush, not the whole surface. And I'm talking very, very, very light dry brush. Just catch just the high points, so you have like those inside those little divots remain those brown and orange tones. And then you can come in with a slightly brighter metal, and then just catch corners and just dry brush, or even just edge just a little bit. And also of course where there's like nicks in the armor and stuff like that, you can also come in with a slightly brighter metal and just hit those points. So those are many different ways of going about creating that look on that armor. And I think now, because you have that metal on that surface and you're working up that skin tone, bear in mind how much brown orange you're going to see on that armor. Because again, you're working from that base tone of that metal, but it all depends on how heavily you want to build that up. And of course, like I said, if you do it like a wash, you can build up, especially if on top of the metal and you're not sure how bright or dark you want to work it. If you create your browns and oranges as washes, you can always build up to that effect, especially if you thin it out nicely. And of course, the metals will show through the brown and oranges and give you your middle tones. You can always build it up like that. Whereas, like I said, with taking the brown and orange and just applying it like a base coat on that surface, it can be kind of heavy-handed, but it'll give you a very heavily rusted look to the model. So again, it is personal preference on where you want to go with it. Hopefully that helps you and kind of gives you an idea on where you want to go with it. Again, like I said, so with the washes, you can build up to the effect where you want to be with it, or you can just kind of dive right in, create this really, brown orange tone on the armor, and then pick it out with metal and even dry brushing the metal. Now, I really wouldn't recommend, if you did that, dry brushing like the entirety of the armor. I'm like, when I say with a dry brush off, say like a mid-tone metal, I'm talking like a very minimal amount of paint is on that brush, and we're using a somewhat large brush to do that, like a little 3/4 inch brush or even 1/2 inch brush, and just lightly catching, and of course bringing up more highlights on the high points or even the low points if you want. You could also build like a brighter silver upwards, you know, starting bright here and getting darker, or brighter getting darker. It's that is also entirely up to you which way you want to do that. I wouldn't go too dark as silver because it wouldn't visually make a lot of sense, but you know, whatever. Sponging on your colors is a really fantastic way of getting this really fantastic mottling, and especially if you do it as a wet on wet, essentially, because like I said, if you take a darker brown and an orange and you use a sponge to apply it and you're using both colors at the same time and you're letting it blend right on the brush and on the surface, you're going to get all these wonderful tones on that surface, and it'll look like a heavily corroded, rusted metal on that surface. Just after doing that, it's going to look that way, and you give it just a quick little dry brush, and that will most likely achieve a certain look. Now, that's going to be very dark, and it's going to have that heavily rusted look, like heavy rust, like that plate was just rusted metal, and they just kind of banged it out and threw it on the guy and, you know, took off. Also, too, the other one as well is not doing the armor all looking the same. Some armor might be more rusted than others because maybe he getting replaced, and you know what I mean. Like, again, it's all about, you know, creating the character and, you know, going with a visual theme, because even some of the armor plate, right? If you go with like pure metals, what if the armor was taken from something else? Maybe it was taken from, you know, another character, and you could see like a symbol of something. You know, maybe there was a heraldry. You can see the claw foot of like a griffin or something. You know what I mean? Just all these wonderful little ideas that you can come up with to create a story behind the model, right? Because that's kind of what you want to do, you know, in most cases, you know, with these miniatures, especially if you're going to take the time and create a display piece. You really want to find the character and tell a story, you know. Hopefully that helps, Johnny. Thank you for sending the email, and yeah, that definitely helped a lot. And of course, like I said, like, you know, doing heavily rusted armor plate, I mean, there was a bazillion different directions, and I mean, there's even more I can think of right now that we can go on, but I mean, you know, whatever. Johnny Chop Shop had my kid send it, got him old. Raziel, you know, they totally retconned the Plains world lore for the Deathwing. It used to be that they recruited from a planet that was patterned on Lakota People Society. So lame that they left that behind. Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, you know, cultural appropriation and, you know, shit like that, right? So, I mean, you know, it's... I mean, I've often held that, you know, so, like, everything in this planet is cultural appropriation. Everything. Cultural appropriation is all over the place. When it's bad is when it's stereotyping and it's being presented negatively or ignorantly, right? That's when it's bad. But when it's respected and loved, that's when it's good. You know what I mean? Like cultural appropriation, right? Pizza, right? Everybody loves pizza. We don't. But we're not all Italian. So, you know. It's like cooking, right? Cooking is a big cultural appropriation. So many different flavors from so many cultures come together, and people love it. And, you know, and that's cultural appropriation, right? Fusion is really when you start getting crazy. Scott Radom, 98% paint, 2% play. Exactly, right? So, Scott, yeah, you're coming from a very painterly side of miniature painting, right? You're very concerned, obviously, about technique, color, you know, and all these other aspects of it. Whereas myself, I don't consider myself solely a painter, and I don't consider myself solely a wargamer. I'm very in the middle. I consider myself to be 0 degrees. I consider myself, well, maybe sometimes I dip to painter, sometimes I dip to wargamer, but I'm somewhere in the middle. I consider myself somewhere in the middle. I love gaming and I love painting. And when I'm gaming, I want to paint, and when I'm painting, I want to game. So that's the circle of life for me. When I'm painting, I'm not thinking about more painting. And when I'm gaming, I'm not thinking about more gaming. Right? Dr. Xantos, what is this playing you talk of? Scott, and my armies do get lost on the table. Fair point. Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about, right? And see, that's why, like, Lord of the Rings, I mean, like, they're great looking models. And from what I understand, it's a great game. But the color schemes, they're all based off the movie. And it's like, everybody's Riders of Rohan are going to look the same. They're going to be painted the same. Come on. That's why, like, Space Marines, they say, like, there's 1,000 chapters, and they've never, said what are the 1,000 chapters. Because they left it up to you to make up your own color scheme. Because people want to have their own, express themselves in their own way. Right? It only makes sense. And it keeps people engaged. And it has a wonderful aspect for the painters, the gamers, and the people who like the background of the material, right? People who want to write the backstory for their chapter of Space Marines, and all the battles they fought and the enemies that they've won against, or if they've been nearly destroyed, or why do they have black stars on their armor, or what I mean, like, just whatever, right? And so there's always something for everybody out there, as long as they keep it open-ended. When they start defining everything, every little frickin' aspect of the background, then it loses its magic, and why bother, right? And like Lord of the Rings, that's why I'm a hard sell on Lord of the Rings, because everybody's frickin' Riders of Rohan are going to look the same. Boo earns. So, But anyway, that's just my opinion. Raziel, dude, they totally stole Giant Robo's head for the Battlestar bot. Is that Giant Robo's head? Because that looked like the helmet from the classic Battlestar Galactica helmets. It's the Egyptian helmets. Anyway. Greenleaf Terrain. Oh, wow. Who's this beautiful man? Is you single, bro? You know damn well, Adam, that I'm not single. Although I do dabble in some man-on-man love. I don't dabble. Johnny's Chop Shop. Thank you, Kris. My son sent the email for me. Yeah. Daniel Horton. Hey, how you doing? Hey, I'm doing okay. Eldari Lamborghini. Took an eternity, but finally managed to send that gosh darn email. Really? Maybe you loaded it with a ton of crap. Holy crap! Everybody sent in emails. Okay, cool. Oh, even Scott sent some muted realistic and lost on the tabletop. All right, well, since a bunch of emails have shown up, I guess I better get to some more emails here. Where am I here? Bits and Bullets over on Twitch. Hi from Germany. Love your work. Well, thank you, Bits and Bullets. Thank you. Rezio, personally, I felt the old Deathwing lore was meant to celebrate the culture, but I'm just a white dude. Maybe you have a better idea if it was really in poor taste or not. You know what? I'm not Dakota, so I mean that's not my culture. But yes, they are Native Americans, but I mean, their culture is different than ours. Their language is different. Their religious beliefs, they're different people, man. Just because they got brown skin, black hair, and wear feathers doesn't mean they're all the same. Raziel, Giant Robo is also an Egyptian motif. It's probably supposed to be the Battlestar version. Yeah, it looks more like the Battlestar. I mean, the face could have been from some other thing. I don't know. Like, I don't know if if that was an actual legit kit you can buy or figure you can buy, or if that was a conversion. Because, I mean, there's some really fantastic conversions of stuff out there. I've never heard of a Battlestar Transformer before, but, I mean, there's so many things on this planet that I've not seen. So, Daniel Horton. How come we don't see you play on Ash and Gaming with the Cooler channel? I do play on Ash and occasionally with Owen. I haven't... Well, Owen's a busy dude, so... his schedule is kind of like all over the place. Ash, I mean, right now, like, we've been doing this social distancing. I mean, I was social distancing before social distancing. To sound like a hipster. I was social distancing before it was cool. Anyway, and yeah, I mean, like, Ash and I want to get back to, our campaign, because the Corpse Grinders, I mean, like, we only got through what, the first part of the campaign. We're on the in between phase, and then we're gonna get to the really bad stuff. So I'm curious. I want to see whether or not the enforcers, if they turn to chaos, if they start eating each other. That's what I want to see. It'll be great if all those police officers start eating each other. That's what I want to see. So yeah, I want to get back to the campaign, but you know, I mean, like, see, the thing is that my wife is still working. She's not an essential service, so it's kind of, you know, kind of bullshit. But it's like, right now she has very limited contact with the public, but still, there's possibilities where she can come into contact with somebody. And myself and my son, we're at risk. So I run the risk of catching it and, you know, being affected by it. And Ash has little ones, and they're not really, like, they're still at risk because I don't have their medical history and shit like that. So why bother putting his kids at risk, right? So, you know, Owen, I mean, I could care less if I put him at risk. But anywho, yeah. So that's why, and that's why we haven't. Because really, I'm personally, is because you know, Ash has little ones, and I would really hate to think that all of a sudden we got together for a game, and then all of a sudden his kids were sick, and it's like, well, what the hell, you know what I mean? He somehow caught it from me, and you know what I mean? Like, I'd feel fucking horrible if that were the case. So anyway, that's why. Eldari Lamborghini. Oh, yeah. Emerald Phoenix. Note to self: don't drink while Kris is talking. I don't dabble. I mean, you know, you try and dabble here and there, but you know. Reziel. Well, not my intention to imply all you people were the same. Yeah, all you people. You people. What do you mean, you people? No, I get it. I understand. I know your intention was not that. And, you know, because, I mean, like, again, it's, you know, it's education, right? Not to say you're not educating, you're ignorant or anything like that, but, you know, this is not the kind of stuff that is taught, especially in North America. And so, you know, yeah, there are, like, it's, you know, it's something that needs to change, of course, but yeah. I understand, Rezio. I get it. Don't worry. You're not hurting my feelings, dude. Bits and bullets. 500 nations. Damn near, yeah. Daniel Horton. I mean, will we see more of you on their channel, like playing Battlefleet Gothic with your Eldar? Yeah. I mean, I haven't, like, again, like, this current situation, I mean, you know, making plans, who knows? Like, Owen, I guess, yeah, Owen, I mean, we could play with, you know, together, because he doesn't have kids. And like I said, I couldn't care less if he got sick. But I don't know if Owen is, I don't know if Owen is still working or not. I'd imagine he's not. I'd imagine he has tons of free time right now. I don't know, maybe he is at work. Oh, you know what? He did start a new job, though. I don't know. It's been a bit since I've talked to him, so, yeah. Goes to Starman Deluxe. It'd be great if all those police officers start eating each other. Yeah, it would be awesome. That's how. Even if I get my ass kicked in this campaign and I'm down to like just one little Benum and he's trying to, you know, fight for scraps of food. If all those police officers start eating each other, it'll be a win. It'll be a moral victory. If that's the case, I'll be totally happy with that campaign going down like that. Even if I get my ass kicked and I lose all my boys and I lose my scary butcher. That's going to hurt if I lose the butcher. That's going to hurt if I lose the butcher at any point. Knock on wood. Yeah, we haven't lost him yet. But it is a very real possibility coming into the later half of the campaign. So, anywho. Dark Commission, episode 294. My wife's not essential. No, I was... you know what? Screw it, Dark. You win. That's definitely going to get me beat up. That's good. I'm going to show up next week with the leftovers of a black eye. And I'll blame Dark Commission. He said it, man. I'm sorry, honey, but said you're not essential. Oh shit! You're gonna get me beat up, man. Bits and bullets. How do you find the right balance between quality and output when working on an army? Oof, that's a tough one. That is a tough one because that's personal preference, right? Because yeah, even if you were newer to the hobby, that seems like the kind of question that how do you even solve that one? And even being very experienced in getting your army done, and that's probably and personally, I still ask myself that question too because yeah, my army's not complete, and I still have a ton of models to finish, and so yeah, and that's probably one of my personal hangups as well as far as my army is concerned because I want good quality, but again, I get bored pretty easily, painting 10 guys the same thing, same way, and you know what I mean, like it just even just thinking about it now, it just kind of is, The airbrush helps speed through some of that process. But yeah, finding that quality and output, that is a tough one. That is really personal. It's really what your own skill level, where you consider your skill level. Do you consider yourself a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, right? Because being a more advanced painter, I can see it being very hard to complete an army because you're so used to bringing a model to such a good standard that it would take you forever to get a unit done. Unless, of course, like, if your goal is to go to the similar standard of what you see, say, out of White Dwarf, painted like, it was painted like by the Heavy Metal team, that is very achievable. And it looks really good on the table. And it is, for the most part, really good painting. Really, really good painting. So emulating what they're doing and how they paint, that's probably not a terrible idea. And that's probably one of the better balances of quality and quantity as far as getting your army done, right? Because that's what we're talking about when quality and quality, right? You want to have good quality miniatures and good quantity because you want to field them as well on the tabletop, right? So following along with Games Workshop's pre-described recipes and techniques and stuff like that for achieving these looks is probably not a horrible idea. It's when you start getting into, not advanced, but I guess it's more advanced. It's just different color palettes. You're doing a lot of color mixing, you know what I mean? Instead of just using straight out of the bottle colors, a lot of freehanding, stuff like that. A lot of hand work and not so much airbrushing just to lay base colors down, But airbrushing definitely would speed that up. But again, it's with the airbrushing, it's how much detail, how much further do you want to, how far do you want to push your quality, right? But yeah, that is a mostly personal thing. But yeah, a good question actually, because for me personally, I mean, yeah, I honestly don't really have a great answer for that. Finding that balance between quality and output of getting an army done, like, because especially for somebody who's intermediate or advanced, where you're really starting to concentrate on getting a smooth base coat down, you're laying good colors next to each other, you're concerned about color schemes and your color theory, and you're concerned about your brush technique, and you've started dabbling in more blends and stuff like that, and glazing and mixes, and what I mean, like all these aspects of when you start reaching higher plateaus within painting, and yeah, it can be hard, definitely. It is a mostly individual thing, as far as I can see. So yeah. Grim, does anybody else get a network error? No. Why? Am I pooping out here? Let me see. No, I'm showing nothing funny on my end. My kilobytes per second are the usual. I'm seeing no drop frames. And Twitch is not showing any jumps in transmission. No. Everything's 5x5. I just watched that one the other day. I any chance I get to watch Aliens, man, I love. We had was it last weekend? Yeah, it was last weekend. We watched Alien and then Aliens. We usually breeze past Alien 3 and Alien 4, but anyway. Daniel Horton, I now and total understand why you can't play with at the moment. Moment in was more generally thing. I would love to see you more on their 2 channels. That was all. And then repeated it 3 times. Oof. Wow. No, I get it, Daniel. No, it's just, yeah. I mean, yeah. Why also? I mean, Ash is really busy. Owen's busy. I mean, Owen, like his channel, in last year, he has not really been producing a whole lot of videos, right? He plays more with Ash, and so it's really just more Ash's content that he's helping him create rather than his own stuff. Because, I mean, Owen's a busy dude. Ash is a busy dude. You know, they're both busy dudes. I'm a busy dude because, you know, I'm doing stuff for my own channel. I've gotten myself to a point now where I'm producing videos 5 days a week, you know? So, you know, everybody's busy, man. Everybody's busy. Reziel, completing armies is a problem for me. My version of tabletop standard is way past what's common for that level. I'm too picky. Yeah, same here. I understand completely. And I think that's the problem, right? When you start getting to the intermediate, and, you know, advanced type painter, and, you know, yeah, where do you draw that line, right? You know, you can fiddle with color all day long and spend, you know, 20 hours on a single miniature. Well, you're not getting your army done that way, right? So, and if you want to play, you got to get your armies done, right? Well, I mean, you can play unpainted armies, but that's kind of crap. You should play with your painted armies. Eldari Lamborghini, completing an army is an infinite project for me. I like to paint off one-off models just for the sake of doing it. Right, yeah, and again, it all depends on how often you play as well, right? See, for me, the playing, you know, gets me fired up to paint, and the painting gets me fired up to play. And that's a little circle that I've had, and that probably stems from probably back in the day when we were very strict on our playing with only painted. And maybe that's something that more and more people ought to enforce, just as, you know, a gentleman's type of rule, you know, only playing with painted, only. And if you don't have it painted, can't play it, right? So maybe we should start enforcing that. Johnny's Chop Shop. Do guinea pigs fart? I'd imagine just about anything that takes in sustenance and processes it, creates a byproduct, and expels it, can either burp or fart. So I'd imagine yes. Or was that your kid typing that in? Disflux, hashtag, just put paint on it. Just put paint on it? Yeah, just put paint on it. Not insane. That makes me think the opposite. The answer for how to finish an army is to only play small model count skirmish games. Sure, but what if you're an apocalypse nut like myself? I have an Eldar army for apocalypse, and I loves me apocalypse scale gaming. I love, you know, bringing 10,000 points, slapping it on the table, after the first turn, scraping half of it off the table. No, which is why I really liked the apocalypse rules that were very recent, and unfortunate, you know, that doesn't get much talk. Yes, I realize there's a bunch of, you know, flaws with it and such, and I think that applies to only a small niche of gamers. It's kind of the niche within niche, and yeah, but I like Apocalypse, and I like the rules for Apocalypse. They were fun. It simplified the game, yes, but it sped it up to a very manageable game size. You know, and, you know, it's anytime you get to play with your big toys, like, why not? Like, when I could bring up my Phantom Titan, I wish I could bring my Phantom Titan in every game, which is why I want Eldar for Titanicus, so that I can start bringing a Phantom Titan to every game, you know? Like, come on. Damn it, Games Workshop. Grim. It must be from my end due to some recent storms. Well, yeah, I guess so, Grim, because It's beautiful and sunny here. It's warm, starting to warm up now finally around here. It's been cold. I had a theory about that, actually, to change subjects entirely. We've had this real cold snap. And I think it's because we're all staying indoors. There's less pollutants going into the air. I'm not saying it's entirely stopped. But as the natural processes of this planet are able to kind of not catch up, but process what's already existing in the air, I think we are. It's the kind of thing you did. If you've ever seen The Day After Tomorrow, I think it's the opposite. we could bring about an ice age just by stopping this human activity and the cool air, because it's drawing all the greenhouse effect, right? Since for the last couple months now, that we've been pulling these greenhouse gases that are naturally occurring. Imagine once the leaves and everything start budding on trees and stuff, especially in North America here. Imagine once the plants are in full bloom, how much carbons and pollutants are going to get pulled out of the air, as long as we're still indoors. And a vast majority of industrial processes are downgraded, right? I'm not saying that the planet is going to catch up or anything like that, but it is very interesting. And I think this cold snap, I think we're in for a cool summer. Like, not cool, like, hey, I mean, I'm talking like cool, like temperature wise. I think we're in for a cool summer. Where the hell am I? Ghost Starman Deluxe. Kris, it's pronounced alien cubed. Ghost, you know what? You're lucky you're on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, man, because I'd punch you right in the nose. Don't correct me, son. Bits and bullets. Airbrush is a thing. I started glazing lightning on a squad of Pathfinders, and then I thought, okay, it's too much now. Yeah. I mean, again, it's kind of like, especially if you take your painting pretty seriously, and you want your models to look really good because you like impressing everybody, right? You like drawing some attention, and everybody who paints miniatures well, everybody likes the attention. It's just a fact of life, And when you're creating, and you picked up a brand new unit of models, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, let's look at that, and and do this, and if you're only ever going to do that one unit, it does take a bit to get it done. Versus if you had, say, 20 squads of stuff to do, and you're still kind of fiddling with that one squad, how you want to do it. But then you should be able to blast through the rest, especially if you stick to your own kind of procedure on how you want to go about it, right? And again, it is personal. And if you're going for something that looks better than what Games Workshop shows on the box art, because the box art that you see on the models, it is very achievable for anybody, just with time and practice. But it's very achievable. It's not out of anybody's grasp to do that kind of paint job on a miniature. But going beyond that and doing an entire army beyond that kind of standard, yeah, that does take more time. Unless, of course, you work out a really good procedure for it. Dark Commission. Are you implying the Queen farts? You'll be booted out of the Commonwealth for less. The Queen does fart if she's human. If she's not human, then yeah. But if she's not human, then sure. If she's like an owl. Go Starman Deluxe. For fuck's sakes, GW. I want to bring a Phantom Titan to kill team. Goddammit. Yeah, bring a Phantom Titan for kill team. That's not actually a horrible idea. Because what if you had some uber soldiers, super uber soldiers, and they're the goal is to blow out the ankle of a Phantom Titan. That'd be kind of a fun little scenario. Just saying. Where am I? Heretic Scott. Hey dudes, can't believe this has been running for almost 300 episodes. Anyone here been here from episode 1, aside from Kris. Has anybody been here since episode 1? I don't know. I honestly don't think so. A lot of the names that, especially a lot of names that show up right now, I think you guys been following probably for the last 2-3 years. I don't know, because I know there's a bunch of names that I used to read all the time, and I don't think they're still around. Or maybe they lurk, or maybe they watch After Effect and they're just not here. You know. Right. But yeah. Interesting though. Yeah, interesting question. But I mean, episodes 1 to 10 are on Mini Wargaming Twitch. Or no, it used to be, what was it? Justin TV? Was that what it was? Yeah. So that's not even a thing. They're lost to time. Emerald Phoenix. I've got roughly 600 models to paint. Never thought I'd reach this stage, but I keep them out of sight, and it's because I love APOC so much. Me and my friend play it several times a year. Yeah, you know what? Me too. I mean, I can't remember last time I played APOC. Well, I mean, I played the latest version of APOC, and I had a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, it is one of those things where, you know, it's just kind of, you know, it's also a pain too if you've got to go somewhere, and it's the kind of thing that, you know, you want to have like all day to play. And the way the new rules work for it makes it very achievable to play an entire game, you know, with that many models on the table, which is nice, because that's one, like, anybody who's played APOC, like, you know, previous to this latest edition of it, knows that finishing a game, you know, 100,000 point game. Anybody who's played that size of game knows it is wicked hard to try and get it done, you know. Even way back when we started doing more large-scale games, like when 3rd edition rolled around, and we were playing a lot of big games. There was like 4 of us playing, and we'd have like probably about 5,000 a side, or 5,000 a player, or more. Yeah, it was, and of course too, we were also, you know, we were having beers and stuff like that, and, you know, usually by the time we're rolling around to the middle of second turn or something like that, like, too polluted, and, you know, just kind of losing it, and just the mass carnage oftentimes, you know, it's just, you end up losing interest, right? So, you know, there's ups and downs. Emperor's Champion, she's a bioweapon. Emerald Phoenix, using basic 40k rules, not the new APOC rules, right? Disflux, Kris isn't wrong. When someone shows up with a Buster paint job and your army looks awesome, you are right to feel like a superior being. I don't know about that one, but sure. I mean, you know, like, many of you will know that, you know, you like the admiration that goes along with doing a nice paint job on a model, or even having a nicely painted army. Everybody oohs and ahs, and everybody likes that attention, right? Because, you know, we're with these simple monkey brains like endorphins, right? So, you know, it only makes sense. That's why, like, social media is, you know, we're getting that little endorphin rush every time, you know, ooh, somebody liked my post. Ooh, you know, ooh. It's an endorphin, and we're addicted to our endorphins. So, the same thing with painting. And personally, I mean, like, I do it mostly on social media, I suppose, nowadays. But, like, when I used to finish models, yeah, like, when I was younger, it would be all the time. I'd show my mom, show my dad, you know, show my brothers, sisters. You know what I mean? I'd show everybody. Ooh, look what I painted. Look at this. And you know, and everybody, of course, you know, didn't really get it. It was like, oh, cool, you know. And then, of course, show the friends, and they'd be all, ooh, ah, you know. So, that kind of stuff, right? And nowadays, with social media and everything like that, it's, you know, it's the same kind of thing. You know. But, yeah. I don't do that anymore, though. But, I mean, like I said, like, I mostly just share it on social media. And, you know, that's it. I don't really, you know, like, I used to even, when I finished something, I'd show my wife, you know. I'd be, hey, look at this, honey. I finished this. And, you know. Nowadays, no, I ain't even sure. I don't care. I just get the model done and just, yeah, okay, cool, it's done. It's another project done. That's the difference of, when you are switching from painting for a hobby to painting for a job, or doing this for a living, right? That's the difference. Is it just kind of, all right, just get it done. Just get it done. It's done. You don't really care anymore. And so many people want to do this as a living kind of thing, and it's, I'm telling you, man, it changes your perspective on this entire hobby. You have to find a new hobby. And if this was something that was really dear to you, and you want to make it your a business, you want to make a living from this, it's challenging. It's challenging. I've been doing this for 8 years, 9 years. 2011 I've been doing this. Well, as creating tutorials for video, right? I've been working as a videographer / instructioner. Fuck, that's not good English. An instructor, since 2011. I've been doing this. I've been painting since about 88. I've been in this hobby since about 88. So, yeah. Dr. Xantos. Yeah, Dr. Xantos is probably one of the oldest around, because I know Dr. Xantos. I've read that name. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've watched you for like 5 years now. Yeah. I know Dr. Xantos is a name I've read quite a bit. Reziel too. Reziel, yeah. Yeah, I started watching about 5 years ago, yeah. You guys might be some of the older ones who've been watching. And Eldari, yeah. 4 or 5 years. Dark Commission, 4 or 5 years, yeah. Ghost of Starman Deluxe. First email I sent you slightly over 4 years ago, so I've been watching for about that long. Interesting. Did you go back into your email history and see when you sent an email? No, actually I purged quite a while ago, because my Gmail was getting full, and so I purged a bunch of emails like a couple years ago. But I think I still have a lot of the emails, though. Or I could just go back and, I've been doing Way the Brush. I've been doing this since the first one was 2013, I think. So I've been doing Way the Brush for a while. And this is just, this was intended as a help you and answer your questions kind of show. And of course, back in the day, I used to do the, demonstrations. I used to do, grab a paintbrush. Oh shit, paintbrush is rolling around. Grab a paintbrush and start painting and show you guys stuff. And I've talked about it not too long ago. Well, maybe it's been a while ago now. About doing, like demos again, and showing you guys particular things and what have yous, right? So, but anyway. Eldari Lamborghini. I still show my fiance the models I finish. She can usually point out the oopsies or colors that don't make a lot of sense. Is she artistically minded as well? Yeah, that's cool. Rumen Matnov. I started with the hobby in 2015 and have been watching since about then, because mini wargaming got me into the hobby at the time. Cool. Yeah. Very cool. Ghost Starman Deluxe. It wasn't hard to find. I haven't sent many emails on this account. LOL. Oh, okay. Reziel, dude, check out Way of the Rush Conversations episodes. An old crew. All the old crew are there just about. That's right. Yeah. The old conversations. That's one I've considered, because I think we talked about that previous episode about bringing that one back. And I've had some ideas, and I haven't sent out notifications, because I don't think I would do them live. I'd do them as pre-recorded. But I was thinking about having some of you guys, and I was actually thinking about contacting some others as well. So yeah. Dark Commission. I didn't know the hobby even existed 5 years ago, and I'm 54. So many years wasted. Well, that's the thing too, right? I mean, some people are just getting into this and had never heard of this, right? And I think that in part is due to, Games Workshop, being more public facing again, right? So, yeah. Eldari, she's big into makeup, so she has a great sense of creativity. Yeah. Yeah. My daughter's the same way. Yeah. My daughter loves her makeup and, colors, and oh yeah, she can go on for hours. It's like I can go on about paints, she can go on about makeup and stuff like that. Which is probably where she gets it, right? Emerald Phoenix. Not sure how long I've been watching. I remember you reaching episode 100, so it was a few episodes before then ish. Wow, yeah, that's a long time. I remember when I thought that was a great feat. But we're approaching 300, and I'm going to have to do a giveaway for episode 300. We're only what? This is episode 94, so 6 more weeks, 6 more episodes. So, yeah, I'm going to have to think of something. I mean, shit, we're probably still going to be we're still going to be self-isolating probably by then too. 6 weeks. Yeah. Because the only way the only way that business is going to get back to normal is once there's a vaccine, right? That's the only way everything's going to go back to somewhat normal. This wearing masks and washing hands and, not touching our faces and, that's most likely going to be the remainder of civilization, I think. Until some sort of new vaccine comes out that protects you against everything. But I don't think that's the case, because if you came out with a vaccine that protects you against everything, guaranteed a virus would come out that would counter everything, and it would just essentially be, as soon as one little bug got in you, that you died, right? So who knows? But as far as everything kind of as far as everybody just going back to doing kind of what they used to do, yeah, we're not going to reach that until there's a vaccine, and best estimates are a year. So get comfortable, people. And we haven't. I don't even Are we even through the first hump yet? The first curve, because they expect 3 curves to this, and the second curve, they say, is historically worse than the first curve. So, yeah, this has still got to go on. But I mean, as far as I've seen a lot of news about people going out and not protecting themselves and gathering and even protesting, I say let them. Because y'all know I'm a big fan of Darwinism. So I say let them do it. I'll stay in my house, and I'll keep my family safe and my loved ones safe, and I'll ensure that we survive. I'm fine with that. Great Narlock, always lurking. Always. Great Narlock, yeah. Bits and bullets. Thanks for your answers. Helped with certain thoughts. Maybe I gotta draw a clear line between standards and the special minis worth the effort. Yes, definitely. Like your rank and file, your squads, right? Bring them to a good standard, but it doesn't have to be, display type standards. The characters, you bring them to display standards, right? If you want. Or just a really good standard. Tanks, right? Good standards. What else, But your rank and file, your tactical troopers and stuff like that, you bring them to a good standard. But if you can work out a process that gets them done fairly good and quickly, definitely, right? And definitely how you part out those projects. I've often recommended many times, do a squad, then do a character, do a squad, do a tank, do a squad, do a war, do a war engine, do a squad, do a plane, do a squad, you know what I mean? And you'll find that you'll get through your project pretty quickly. Rezio, are you still in any contact with Cody Rue or Drewski? Yeah, I have him on Facebook and stuff. Cody Rue, I talk to every once in a while. Blue Moon. Drewski, well, I saw him all the time when he was working for Mini Wargaming for a while. I haven't talked to him in a while because he was changing jobs or something like that. And so, yeah. But, yeah. Scott Radom, here in Saskatchewan, we are transitioning back to normal in waves starting May 4th. Right. I mean, it is going to be a transition, but life is not going to return to normal until there's a vaccine, until people are protected. But I mean, if people want to go out, I've seen people going to the beaches again and stuff like that. Like, go right ahead. Even if I lived at the beach, I would not be on the beach. Nope. And the amazing thing is, like, America, like, it's got the highest numbers, and the country is only 300 some thousand. I mean, how do they have the highest numbers, and as opposed to countries with huge populations? You know what I mean? And of course, they always show the similarities between Korea, South Korea, And that was the big one too. Did you hear about that one? That apparently that's been flying around about North Korea. Anyway, South Korea and America, same day, this whole thing started for them, and yet they only have a couple hundred fatalities versus America. So, it's interesting. Heretic Scott. I think I've been in this hobby since I was 10. First box I got was a Battle for Skull Pass with all the spear goblins and spider riders. Cool. Yeah. And you know what? It's when we think about the first things, that we got into. Like for me, I always fondly remember Space Hulk. That's really what got me into this hobby. And it's kind of like your first love kind of thing, right? It's always, you always remember the first one fondly. No matter what, you always remember it fondly. And so, it's that nostalgia, right? Looking through it with through the nostalgia lens. So, yeah, interesting. Raziel, my state is basically reopening on May 1st. Still have social distancing recommendations, but otherwise non-essentials will be back in business. Sure, yeah. And then you're going to see huge spikes in the spread of this again. And then see what ends up happening. At least I'm no epidemic. I can't even say the word. The more this spreads around, I think the faster you evolve it, right? Whereas when you have the social distancing, you are limiting how many iterations of a cell it can penetrate, right? And it doesn't evolve quite as fast, at least as far as I understand the science of this. Whereas if it's allowed to freely just wash over the public, it's going to evolve quite quickly. And whatever they create a vaccine for may not treat the latest iteration of it, which is why you still have SARS, which is the same coronavirus. It's because SARS, like this COVID-19 is of the same gene as SARS. It's evolved. So, just throwing an arbitrary date on when you're going to reopen, just an arbitrary date, like nothing's changed. What's changed? Like all of a sudden we're just going to say we're on the 1st, on the 2nd, on the 3rd at 4 p.m. And you know what I mean? Like we're just going to open. It's just an opening date. It's just, you know what I mean? It's an arbitrary decision. And, it's the only reason why you're getting thrown, these dates are thrown at you, is because so much money is being lost. But realistically, the only people who are being really impacted by this are the people who control those interests. You know what I mean? Like, so those are the only ones who really want to get the doors back open again. Yeah, sure, you don't want to self-isolate, but you also, if you have any empathy, you want to protect your loved ones, elderly, right? And you don't want to spread this virus because the more it spreads around, the faster it's going to evolve and change and mutate and become something else. So, yeah. Anyway, Aaron Seach, first episode for me was reading an email showing some Zinch screamers with a rainbow paint scheme. When I heard the comment, gay pride for Zinch, never laughed so fucking hard in my life. Okay. Reziel, well, with the U.S. is over 350 million people, cases per capita put us in the middle of a pack with New York contributing almost 20% of the total. The news is not reporting this honestly. Of deaths, or of cases, or of people recovered, I think those numbers are pretty accurate. I mean, what other numbers can they provide as far as how many people? Now, not believing or becoming very distrustful of outlets of who are providing these numbers is kind of dangerous, because then you are in this position where then why even trust anything? If you're not going to trust one media source, then why do you trust another one? Because it's repeating back the things you want to hear? Is that why? Because whenever you hear news, it should conflict with your current notions of things. The news should always be against what you want to hear. Right? Because it's news. You know? I get, personally, I tend to listen to I listen to a lot of, say, for example, like MSNBC. I listen to that. I listen to some CNN, and I listen to some Fox News. I look at all of them. And, even like big newspapers, and they have like the big stories, like big thick newspapers. And here in Canada, the Toronto Star is the big one. And immediately, if I see something that's on front page, second page, whatever, I often will go to the business section, and there is where you'll find the real story, because oftentimes all these things are often motivated by money. It's the money, it's the greed. It's the greed that's going to put people in danger, and it's oftentimes why all these fucking problems are occurring in the world. It's because of greed. They talk about overpopulation. I watched a documentary. It's a Michael Moore produced documentary, Planet of the Humans. I would highly recommend it if you want to piss yourself off and get really depressed about something. And it talks about basically how all these green solutions are not what we thought they were. At least it presents that case. So you watch it and decide for yourself, of course. Make up your own mind about your information that you're absorbing. Always, regardless of what the source is, you should always be making up your own mind about what you're absorbing here. And it was very interesting. And of course, and I've said this many times that it is greed. All these problems in our world is because of greed, historically and today. It's greed. If you could cut that little nugget out of the human beast, you would solve a vast majority of humanity's problems. The notion that of wanting more than what you have, wanting more than what you need, wanting what your neighbor has, right? For anybody who actually, observes those rules. Anyway. Eldari Lamborghini. Over time, Kris has been getting more and more chatty. Almost 2 hours in and 1 email down. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah, we're 11 minutes left of the show. I got to get some emails done because there's a bunch now. You guys all sent in a bunch of emails. So, yeah, it's definitely, I would definitely recommend. I shared it on my Facebook, that documentary, if you want to watch something interesting. But yeah, it is an entirely, and this whole arbitrary opening the date, it's not about public safety, and it's not about just the progress that we're winning against this thing. This is not the time to open back up, because the virus is going to spread. You're going to see a massive spike. Everybody that's opening up, you're going to see massive spikes. And more people. Now, if that doesn't concern you, well, then that displays a lack of empathy. And a lack of empathy is the hallmark of fascism. Being a Nazi. Nazis have no humanity. And yeah, I would lump you right in with that. It's a lack of empathy. Emerald Phoenix. It annoys me that reporters keep asking MPs, etc., give us a date for when this is over. Yeah, there is no date. It's when we have a vaccine that we, and even then, once the vaccine is created and tested and proven it works, then it's still got to get rolled out, and then the whole population has to get vaccinated. And then, of course, you have the fucking people who don't vaccinate. Like, it's like, see, that's why you know what, I'm fine. Open up, and just let, you know what I mean? And, you know, just let it wash over the people. Darwinism, man. Darwinism. You're going to see the greatest Darwinism experiment of all time. We are in a great time for change. And this is a time as well for you individually to make personal changes, to reinvent yourself. This is the perfect time to do that, to reinvent who you are, you know, to learn something, to learn a new skill, be it painting or whatever, or in general in your life, and make those changes that you've always wanted to make in your life. This is it. This is the time when you said, Jesus, if I only had more time. This is that time. You're in it. You're living in it. So now, if you don't make those changes and that you've always talked about, then it wasn't time that, you know, that you wanted or lacked. It was the willpower. It was the lack of character, right? Reziel, the national news here is all bullshit. Most of the reporting is disingenuous and all of the figures are skewed. They're just clickbait institutions and it's a huge problem. Sure, but who else is reporting? Who else? Because who else has the infrastructure to bring that information together and collate it? Who? The guy on the internet who's surfing the internet on forums and going by hearsay? Instead of the institutions that have people on the ground and has the network, the infrastructure in place to process information, they're wrong? That doesn't make sense. You're telling me that a guy in his basement who's trolling forums, gathering information, he's the real source of information? That doesn't make any sense. That just shows a lack of trust of the institutions, which, you know, sure. I mean, you know, don't blindly trust, right? But, yeah. Bits and bullets. Money makes the world go round. Does it? The world is still spinning. Life is still continuing. The air is getting fresher. The water is getting cleaner. We can see that all over the place. You can see examples of the water getting cleaner. For God's sakes, I saw that picture of the Ganges. Since there's nobody dumping crap into the Ganges. The Ganges is an actual color of blue. That's amazing to me. I see that and I rejoice. I see that and rejoice. I can smell the air when I go step outside. I smell the air. It is getting different. I can smell it. It's sweeter. It's almost like when I go from southern Ontario to northern Ontario, I can smell that slight difference. The world is still spinning. The world will spin. With or without people. Money does not make the world go round. Eldari Lamborghini, my change is try and learn a deadish language. Well, yeah, you're a freaking lawyer, dude. Isn't that what all lawyers do? Is, you know, learning dead language? Aaron Siege, anti-vaxxers are the people that would get bit during a zombie apocalypse and not tell anyone. Yeah, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, Robert Marshall. What would be a good color choice for on a Maw Crusher? My iron jaws are a bold orange. I'm thinking a light blue with the color wheel, but I need to think outside the box. Okay, so Maw Crusher. We're talking about the flesh or the armor? Oh, hold on here. Maw Crusher. That's that big dragon thing for the orcs, right? Maw Crusher. Yeah, that's that guy. Okay. So, you're now. Hold on here. Let me get back to the question. What was it? The Maw Crusher? Where the hell is it there? Here we go. Yeah. So your iron jaws are a bold orange color. I'm going to assume you're talking about the armor, right? Your armor is the orange, or the flesh. Your flesh is orange. Your orcs are orange fleshed. Oh, excuse me. Jeez Louise. Or the flesh of the Maw Crusher is orange. I'm getting confused now. Who said that? Robert Marshall? Robert Marshall says the flesh. Okay, so the flesh is orange on the Maw Crusher, and you want to go with blue armor. What is the armor for the rest of your iron jaws? Yeah, the armor is orange. Okay, so Okay, I'm confused now. Break it all down in one sentence for me. The orcs' flesh is what color? The armor is what color? Your maw crusher flesh is orange, right? And you want to decide on the armor color. I would think that you'd want to go with the armor color of the rest of your crushers or of your orcs, and pick a different flesh color. Or is that what we're talking about? You're talking about choosing a flesh color that goes with that orange armor. That's what we're talking about? I think that's what we're talking about. Robert Marshall. Flesh green, armor orange. Okay, so the orcs are green flesh and armor orange. And so the Maw Crusher has orange armor, right? And you want to pick flesh color. Okay, gotcha. I think so, right? Okay, so orange armor. Blue, going with a blue flesh? Sure, yeah, definitely. And it doesn't have to be just a strictly like icy blue, because you can always desaturate the blue. You could also go with going with a bit of a flesh tone mixed into the blue. You could also go, say, with a slightly darker blue, almost a mid-tone blue. Depends on the level of orange. If your orange is very dark and saturated, then you could go with a lighter blue and build it to a light flesh color, right? Getting kind of fleshy towards the chest or down at the extremities, or things like that. Like here, let's pull up a picture here. Yeah, okay. Let's look at this example from G-Dubs. There we go. So the one on the far right in the larger explosive picture there. So you have the two varying tones, right? You have a darker tone and a lighter tone, and in the membranes of the wings, it's a lighter tone. So you can pick all that to be a blue. I would on the darker tones, especially, like, again, it all depends on how bright that orange is or how saturated it is. If it's a very dark orange, if it's a very light orange, you know what I mean? Those are all factors and what level, because that's why like the GW color scheme works really nicely, because they've got this really bright yellow armor with a darker blue accent, and then the green is not very saturated. And in fact, it's actually pretty close to the orc's flesh as well. So it ties them together. That's probably why they went with these choices for a pretty balanced looking armor. Same with the spikes. The spikes don't go very bright either, right? Because it brings more prominence to the orc and to the teeth, the face of the beast. So you can go with, like personally, I mean, like if, let me go back to your comments here. Orange Fire from Vallejo for reference. Orange Fire, I think, is like Troll Slayer orange, right? Orange Fire would make me think it's a yellow orange. Oh, crap. Am I still in that window? Yeah, I am. Hold on. Let me go to, what is it? The compatibility chart. The infamous compatibility chart. Where is it? I have it bookmarked. There it is. I thought it was going to be one of those times that DACA doesn't load up. Lately, for some reason, DACA has been, kind of fiery orange or orange fire. Wait, which one's Vallejo? Vallejo game. It's game color, right? Not model color? Or is it model color? Either way. No, it's got to be game color. Orange Fire. Is Fire Dragon Bright? Really? That's the approximate? Because Hot Orange is like Troll Slayer Orange. Okay. All right. It's pretty trustworthy going by these, by the compatibility chart. If you're not familiar with this, this chart that I'm referring to, that talking about, definitely grab the link, or somebody post a link, or maybe I'll post a link. But either way, it's a really great resource. It's I think is it kind of like Wikipedia where anybody can make adjustments to it, or is it just one person makes adjustments to it? But either way, oh yeah. Anyway, yeah. So it is Fire Dragon Bright. So that's the color of the armor. That's a fairly light orange. So I actually probably would, if you're staying, if you're going within game color, I'd probably go with like a mid-tone blue. I can't think of what a mid-tone blue would be for Vallejo. Okay, well, hold on. Let's go to the compatibility chart. Because I'm thinking something like Caldor Sky. So it would be Magic Blue. Is that the Vallejo game color? Yeah, that's game color. So Magic Blue. I would go with something like a magic blue to begin with on the dark point on the flesh. So if we were talking about, let me go over here. So if we're talking about like where the dark green is on the creature, that would be a mid-tone blue, and then I would build to a lighter blue in the underbelly and in the membranes of the wings. And then I would take a dark blue wash, like say Drakenhof Nightshade, or if you don't have the Citadel shade washes, just take a dark blue, like a navy blue, or like a dark Prussian blue. Turn it into a shade wash, and I've shown that many times how to do turning colors into shade washes, and make it a shade wash and shade wash the armor, so you have that dark blue in the recesses in between the scales and such, and bring that texture out, but not so heavy that it changes the value of the lighter tones in the belly. And in fact, if you wanted to shade wash those lighter tones, like in between the membranes and on the underbelly and stuff like that, under the jaw and everything, take your mid-tone blue that you did for the dark scales, turn that into a shade wash, and shade wash those lighter areas. And then blend, and you can also do a slight wet blend between the two dark tones, and create your tones like that. If that is the light orange we're talking about. So, yeah. So hopefully that helps Robert Marshall. Like Regal Blue from back in the day. Yeah. What is it? A dark blue? Okay, so I was talking about Kaldor Sky, because that's what I do. I'd go for a mid-tone blue on the scales, so I could take a dark blue, shade wash it, and pick those details out. But in game color, apparently it's magic blue, which is a similar value of what I'm talking about there for Kaldor Sky. So for the underbelly and stuff like that, I would think something more like Teclis Blue, which is the current range, which is more like electric blue, apparently from Vallejo Game Color. If you're entirely Vallejo Game Color, or if you're Citadel, whichever it is, sky blue, bright blue, that kind of thing. That's the kind of color blue I'm thinking about for the belly, for the membranes of the wings, right? That kind of thing. And then for the dark blue, something like, night blue or imperial blue, if you're on the Vallejo side of things, or Prussian blue. Break that into a shade wash and apply that over those scales and stuff to bring a lot of contrast, especially if your armor is fairly bright. If that's the kind of amount of work that you want to do. I'm going to see if I can see if anybody's doing that kind of color scheme. Anybody with orange armor? See, one person did one. It looks like a red armor with a red beast. That's cool. That ties it all together. It looks all right. Somebody did one with red armor and green beast. Nothing wrong with that. I just googled Maw Crusher, and I'm looking at examples. Yeah, it all depends, I guess, really, because if you want, here's actually a really interesting one. I don't know who this is, whose model this is, and of course the resolution's not very great. I don't know why it's not. What is Newsgram? Newsgram? Anyway, but here somebody had done one on the right there. It's yellow with the blue. It actually looks pretty cool. And if you went with, and it's gray in the membranes and the underbelly, which is kind of cool. Which is also another idea, right? Because you could also take that blue and blend it out to gray. You can blend it out to a light flesh tone. You know, if you want to go, there's so many different directions you can go. Again, with miniature painting, you are only limited by your imagination. That's your only limit, is your imagination. So definitely give it a try. Robert Marshall, that's awesome. Yeah, it looks pretty darn cool, right? Raziel, Game Air Imperial Blue is almost indigo. Okay. Vallejo Game Air has Ultramarine Blue, which is excellent royal blue. Okay. Yeah. Robert Marshall, this is my problem. I'm my own worst critic. Well, I think what it is you're overthinking things. And, it's just kind of, what would look cool to you? And also, like, for me personally, I will often, like, if I'm looking to do a model, I will do a quick search on that model and see what other people have done. And I will it might serve to inspire what I want to do, because I might already have an idea of what I want to do, but then I'll do a quick Google search and I'll look around and I'll see what other people have done, and I'll most likely will do what the opposite of what they've done. I will do whatever hasn't been done. And that's just the way my brain works, because I like to see things from a completely different perspective. I often do not like following the guide. I will just make up my own shit and just, let things fall where they may. Is it a good call? Maybe. Is it a bad call? Probably, But I again, it's just, trying out different iterations, because seeing the same thing over and over again is boring. It's boring. And if you are trying to convince me that miniature painting is an art form, then don't show me the same shit I've seen 100 times. Show me something different. Show me something new. Innovate. Create. Right? If you want to try and convince me that miniature painting is an art form, that's how you're going to convince me of it. Because otherwise, everybody painting the same goddamn thing, that's boring as hell. It's unimaginative, and this can go away. If that were the case, if everybody's doing the same